Every single Japanese automaker's sales and production are a bit questionable as we head into 2024. February was not kind to them, and we're going to break down which companies are doing well from Japan, which are struggling, and why. Grab your snacks and drinks, buckle in, and we got a long one ahead of us. We're going to start with Toyota, then we have Honda, Nissan, Mazda, Subaru. If you guys are a car freak like me that also enjoys the back end of things, sales and production, make sure you're subscribed and smash that like button. Starting with Toyota's sales here, there's going to be a big surprise, at least it was for me. If you look, they were down 7% worldwide for sales in the month of February. They're still up a little bit on the year, just 1.4%. Sales inside of Japan has plummeted 33.3%. A big part of that is that Daihatsu makes some of the K cars under the Toyota badge. I mean, if we look at the Daihatsu, look down 65%, 82%. It's just a mess for Daihatsu and Hino with the scandals going on. But sales inside of Japan down 33%. Sales outside Japan for the month of February is down 0.3%, up 7.6 on the year. So what's going on outside of Japan? Because we know inside of Japan, it's messy for them. North America looks good here. Sales up. The hybrids are doing well. The Corolla Camry and RAV4 hybrids are doing really well. Up 18% on the month of February, up 20% on the year. They're crushing it, doing well in Canada, Mexico, pretty much all the other North American areas as well. So February was good there. Latin America down 0.4%, not that big of a deal. Up 0.7%, they're pretty much flatline. Europe up 14% thanks to them having a big influx of hybrids and plug-in hybrids of the Yaris Cross, Corolla, and the RAV4. The UK sales are down 23% on the month. Russia, rest in peace. France up 19%, Germany up 4%. That's probably the hardest market in Europe with all the German automakers having such a strong foothold in Germany. But Spain up 15%, other countries up 21%. So overall, Europe's doing well, up 7% on the year, up 14% on the month. Production is going to be really high for them, as we'll see in a little bit. Here's where things are just unraveling for them. Asia, and it's not just Toyota. Keep that in mind. Asia down 22% on sales for the month of February. They're down 1% on the year. So they had a strong January. But China's down 35% in sales. Why? Sales down year on year due to competition and the late start of the Lunar New Year. Indonesia down 11% of the month. Thailand down on 23% in sales. Philippines was up. Taiwan was down. Malaysia down. Pakistan is up. Vietnam plummeting. Korea plummeting in sales. And India actually doing really, really well for them as they, rely on that collaboration with Suzuki down there. But yeah, it's mainly China. Look at their volume just dropping off of a cliff for sales. And so China's dragging down not only Toyota, but the rest of the Japanese automakers. There is one exception, and that's Mazda. We'll talk about them later. Japan, despite solid demand, sales were down year on year due to the impact of the certification irregularities of Daihatsu and Toyota Industries Corporation and other operation suspenses caused by snowfall. It's a crap show over there with the Daihatsu and Hino stuff going on. Oceania is doing well. For sales, Middle East doing okay. Africa doing okay. They hardly sell any cars in Africa. Toyota and Lexus combined is a very, very small market for them. Their worldwide production in 2023 was up 11%. So far in 2024, it's up 2.2%, but February took a step back. They were minus 2.6%. Even further down in Japan, and production outside Japan, though, is really, really good for them. Over 6% up on the year. Last year, they had a best year ever in terms of production and sales. And it looks like outside of Japan, that momentum is going to continue. So this circle means a record high of production outside of Japan for the month of February. Daihatsu and Hino are pretty much on the back burner right now due to their cheating on emissions as well as safety tests. So their numbers are going to be just completely in the sewer. Getting into production of country, It looks like things are going really well in North America. Well, maybe not in Mexico because they're still switching over to get the new Tacoma up to high production volume. In the meantime, it's just kind of taken a beating. The Tacoma is essentially down 54% on the year in terms of production. But the models made in Canada and US are absolutely crushing it. And overall, the North American production is up 18% in the month of February and up 20% so far this year. But if we look at worldwide production, it's only up 2%. Europe is crushing it as well, up to 126% on the month, up 37% on the year. But this is where things completely fall on their face, and it's going to be the same for the rest of Japanese automakers. China, production was down year on year due to intensifying sales from the competition, in addition to the difference in operating days associated with the new Lunar New Year. Their overall Asian production for February is down 22%, and so far on the year, down 6%. And look at what's happening in China, down 41%. We have some bright spots in India, Pakistan, Myanmar, they only produce 60 units. I can't believe they make cars there at all. But Malaysia's up, Philippines is up, Thailand's down, China's down, and Vietnam is down. If we go on over to the electrified sales, so far up 18% worldwide, up 8% in February. January must have been pretty strong for this total to be up so high. But look, sales inside of Japan are plummeting. So far down 10% on the year for their hybrids. Sales outside of Japan is up 31% for their hybrids. Mild hybrids I'm not going to talk about. We don't get them here. Their plug-in hybrids, their worldwide sales are up 92% for 2024 so far. I hope this keeps getting higher because their plug-in hybrids are so hard to get your hands on between the Prius Prime, the CHR Prime or PHEV, and then, of course, the RAV4 PHEV or Prime. All right, sales inside of Japan, the plug-in hybrids are doing well. It could be due to the fact that maybe Lexus models are taking off there for plug-in hybrids. I'm not quite sure. And maybe better availability for the Prius Prime. Sales outside Japan up 94% fuel, so I'm not going to talk about that. BEVs, they're starting to take off as well, up 60% on the year, up 28% on the month. Sales inside of Japan, though, are down 20% on the month, only up 3% on the year. People aren't really interested in the fully battery electric in Japan as of right now anyways. Sales outside of Japan for BEVs are up 64% for the year. All electrified models in China were down 28%. For February, they're still up 15% on the year. If we look at North America, it's up 82%, and the Camry hasn't gone full hybrid yet. So that's really going to be a big game changer, I think. Europe is going to keep inching along, but they have such a high penetration for hybrids as it is that they can't really go too much more there. So sales of Lexus models. If you guys didn't know, I started this channel as a salesperson for a Lexus dealer, and that's what springboarded the channel. And so Lexus always has a very special place for me, and that's why I cover them so much on the channel as well. Because I do have a good knowledge base and a passion for the brand. Worldwide sales up 16% on the year, up 3% for the month of February. Sales inside of Japan overall are down quite a bit. Japan's economy is not doing that well right now, and I think we're seeing that being reflected at least on the Toyota end so far. I think we'll see it with Honda and the other brands too as we go on. Sales outside of Japan for Lexus, up 20% on the year, up 9% on the month. North America, it's crushing it, up double digits. Latin America, up over 30% overall. In Europe, Lexus is doing really, really well, up about 40 to 50%. Asia, well, we know the huge downturn in China for the month of February, so that's why we see minus 13%. But overall, they're up 31% on the year, and it's probably looking pretty good for Lexus for the rest of the year in Asia, including China. Oceania up 40 to 50%. Middle East up 5% on the month, 13% on the year. In their Africa, sales are doing well. They only sell a couple hundred units in Africa overall. So we're going to move on to Honda. And are we going to see similar trends here between these two big Japanese brands? And the answer is yes. Production's actually down in Japan compared to the year last year. And if we look what's going on year over year on the month, February was down in Japan about 15%. Outside of Japan, production down about 13% in the month of February, and overall down about 14% for the month of February for the whole world for Honda. Year over year, they're just barely up in production. Look what's going on in China. Their production's down 50% on the month and only down 19% on the year when you include January as well. So it'll be interesting to see if they can rebound here after February. USA, though, look at this North American production, because I'm not going to focus on USA because North America also includes their Mexico plant where they build the HRV, and also their Canada plants where they build CRVs and Civics up there. So overall, look at what they're doing. Up about 10% for the month of February in North America, and up about 17% for the year. So North America, we saw the theme also with Lexus, and most importantly Toyota. They were doing really, really well in North America, not so well in China and in Asia. Sales in the Japanese market, interesting. So we just talked about how production's down, but sales are actually doing well for Honda. Toyota didn't talk too much about sales. If we look at Honda, though, sales are up quite a bit, 160% so far on the year. And I'm not going to get into exports from Japan because the only Japanese-built Honda or Acura we get is a Civic Type R, which is extremely low volume. So let's move on to Nissan here. Let's see how they're doing. We have the Skyline / Infiniti Q50 here. It's really confusing here because they're going all the way back to April of 2023. So I'm not going to look at that. I'm going to look at just February here and try to sift through this as best as possible. Production is up in Japan just 4%, and U.S. production 18% up in February, Mexico up 19%, UK up about 10%, China down 50%. Holy smokes. Now, it's down 14% if you go back an entire year, but this trend of 50% is not going to keep going. Again, remember, due to the Lunar New Year, switching things up for the month of February, it just crushed the Japanese automakers, but they should rebound at least slightly for the month of March going forward. But yeah, China is just not looking good for any of the Japanese automakers. Lexus looking probably the best right now, but it's still pretty small volume and niche. Production outside of Japan is still down 13%. Global production down 10%, mainly due to the Chinese production falling off a cliff. You got to keep in mind, Honda and Nissan rely much more on the Chinese market for sales volume and profits than Toyota. This is a big problem for them. All right, getting into the sales now, leaving the production of Nissan, get into the sales. Passenger vehicles up in Japan, but the commercial vehicles are down in Japan. And the US sales are up 28% on the month, 23% on the year. But remember, 40% or more of their sales are fleet sales. So just because these numbers look good, it's not the whole picture. These are not profitable numbers right now because 44% of their sales, and at least in the US, are to fleet. It's not a healthy situation in the near or long term, especially with dropping residual values. Canada up 62% on the month, Mexico down 5%. Overall, though, sales look good, but that's not the whole story here, even though they're up 27% on the year. Europe up 24% on the month, 19% on the year. China down 30%. Again, remember we saw production down 50%. Their sales are actually down 30%. Moving on to Mitsubishi, sister company of Nissan here. Production seems to be pretty steady for them. So there's not a whole lot to see there, and I'm not going to get into sales really a whole lot. So that was the quickest dusting I've seen. Get into Mazda. Domestic sales are hurting quite a bit, down about 20% for Mazda. Year over year, down about 30%. It's not looking great for them. If we look at their exports, they're all down as well. Down 14% in February, down 23% on the year. I'm not sure what's going on with Mazda here. Get into Mazda's global sales. Surprising they're up in China where the rest of the Japanese automakers are down. I don't know what's going on there and why they're doing so well. USA sales are up 6% on the month, 17% on the year. So they're doing well here in the United States. And other markets, they're about neutral. Overall, though, up 3% on the year and down about 1% on the month. Global sales of key models, CX-5s down 7.5% on the year, CX-30s up 27%, and Mazda 3 is up 11%. We're going to finish with Subaru here. Subaru's first decrease in 2 months for domestic production. Now, they had a tragedy happen over in Japan last month. One of their workers, a 60-year-old man, got smashed by one of the presses. So that's shut down production, and that's why you see such a big drop here. It's a really sad situation. Let's keep moving. Overseas production up 26%. Most of that is here in the Indiana plant in North America. And I don't really have sales for Subaru outside of Japan. They're up 4% on the month, which is pretty good compared to the rest of the Japanese automakers. They're down 2% in the year, which is not bad compared to its competition. But yeah, I think Subaru's doing fine right now. And if I pull up this extra PDF, it's the same. So I just don't have a lot of information coming from Subaru compared to, let's say, Mazda, Nissan, Honda, and Toyota. I think the big takeaway here is that we're going to continue to see the Japanese automakers do pretty well overall in North America for 2024. Their electrified sales, especially, maybe not for Mazda. I mean, they have plug-in hybrids, but Subaru really doesn't have much outside of the Solterra, and Nissan doesn't have much outside of the Aria. So I think Honda and Toyota will be licking their chops with the hybrid sales as they really take off here this year. And I'm still worried about Nissan, to be honest, for the rest of this year as well. Make sure to watch my video about how excited I am for Nissan's future. It's just that the next 2 or 3 years could be very, very rough on them across the globe, especially China, but it could be rough for them here in North America as well. But anyways, I'm going to end it there. Thank you guys for watching this really nerdy sales and exports and production breakdown of the Japanese automakers for the month of February. And it'll be fun to see how the rest of the year shapes up for these big manufacturers out of Japan. Thank you for watching. Have a great day and peace.